from the range, even though it's all indoor behind 8 inches of concrete. So
Right.
I was just making sure that there wasn't any problems.
None that I know of, course, you're a gun club.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Go ahead, Tanya.
Antonia Shumatoff Foster, 232 Old Route 22, Wassaic. I have another couple of suggestions, one for the exemptions, which is that I know that Damien was concerned about, that during hunting season, sounds from hunting should be exempt from being complained about. So I think it would be good if that could be included as an exemption or an exception. If you could find the right language with your attorney to say that during hunting season, sounds or shooting sounds from hunting should be exempt from being complained about.
Mike, I've just been made aware of that the sound isn't working on our televised.
It's working.
Okay. So maybe we need to turn it up or
Watch
something.
out for a moment, yes.
Oh, okay, so now it's fixed. Excellent, thanks.
And so, yes, what I'd like to say in addition to that is that during the last public hearing, which I wasn't able to stay for the whole time, but one thing that disturbed me a little bit was that the code enforcement officer mentioned that he didn't think that the ordinance is enforceable. And so that was disturbing to me. If the code enforcement officer can't enforce an ordinance, then why do we have it? So I wanted to make a couple of suggestions in regards to that, which is, I think that the key word here is reasonable. And reasonable would be, if someone comes to the code enforcement officer with a reasonable complaint that this is bothering their peaceful enjoyment of their property, that the code enforcement officer could go and investigate, and if indeed it is a problem, give a warning, right? My question is, if there's a second complaint from the same situation, what is the way of enforcing it? Is there going to be a fine, or is there going to be a way of enforcing it? Because unless there's a way of enforcing it, what is it, just a slap on the wrist?
No. There is provision for penalties for offenses, number 80-8.
Oh, good.
If any party shall knowingly violate the provision of this chapter or engage in conduct in violation of this chapter, he shall be punished by a fine not to exceed $250 or by imprisonment for not more than 15 days or both.
Oh, good.
So there's a specific provision in there.
Okay.
And I don't think that the code enforcement officer said that it's the new provision that is unenforceable. What he said was the current law is difficult to enforce. So we are
Okay.
creating this new amended version so that he has guidelines, and people have guidelines, hours of operation that are allowed, very specific, more specifics rather than reasonable, unreasonable. I mean, he needed more information, more specifics, and therefore this is what's been being proposed.
But the reason I'm bringing out the word reasonable is, for example, if somebody was complaining about a dog barking for 15 minutes, to me, that's unreasonable. This goes both ways, okay? But if somebody had a situation where a dog was barking all night long or, all day long, and it was a number, that to me warrants being looked into. So it seems to me that, if there are complaints, I know you're getting this all very specific and in terms of time, but if somebody says to the code enforcement officer, this is really bothering me, I can't enjoy my own property, that's worth looking into, even if it doesn't fall within those boundaries
Right.
of exactly what's being mentioned.
So there is one, particularly for unreasonable noise.
Okay,
So it is still in there.
Okay.
And that's any excessive or unusually loud sound or any sound which either annoys, disturbs, injures, or endangers the comfort, repose, health, peace, or safety of a reasonable person of normal sensibilities, or which causes injury to animal life or damage to property or businesses. So then they give specific instances of unreasonable noise.
So how will the code enforcement officer approach the landowner who's being complained about? Will he say, oh, well, we've received a complaint and we would like to bring this to your attention and it is bothering people and we're giving you a warning first, and then after that they get the more serious fine? How does that work? I'm just curious.
So there is a warning first, yes. Warning of violation,
He gives an oral
80-7.
warning first, and then he can follow that up with a violation if it continues.
Okay.
He's got a certain amount of discretion, too. If what one person may think is unreasonable may not be unreasonable.
Right, right. So that's what I'm saying, is that's sort of up to, it's up to the code enforcement officer, I think, to determine whether the complaint is reasonable, unreasonable, or whether the landowner is also being unreasonably asked to do things. I just think that there's a little bit of leeway there that's...
Well, he has a definition
there.
that he can go by. It's right there.
Yeah.
In there, so...
Okay, but do we still have the line in there that was in the first version of the ordinance that said that things that interfere with the peaceful enjoyment of people's property is,
I think that's still in
It
there.
says that in there in the definition.
still says that? Okay,
Definition of unreasonable noise.
okay. But, so, one last question. The point was made last week that people would have to have proof or to record the sound. Is that still necessary?
No, because the need for a noise measuring instrument is no longer required because we are not going to go by decibels.
Okay.
Because there are too many variations and too much variation in how you would read that and interpret it.
And then I just want to say one last thing, and then I'll get down, is that, the point was made repeatedly, I believe, by Leo Blackman, that when sound takes place in a mountain gorge, such as Wassaic, and it ricochets off the sides of the mountains, it's perceived differently than when sound is, sounded within a flat area with a lot of acreage around it. So is there anything in the ordinance that makes the distinction between the mountain gorge hamlet versus the open spaces?
I don't think so. I don't remember.
No.
No, there's nothing in there.
All right, because I do think there's a difference there, and I just wanted to bring that out. And it seems to me that some of the problem areas have been because of mountain gorges and the different kinds of sounds that can be heard when it's ricocheting off two different mountains, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. So I think that's all I have to say, and I trust that you and the attorney will maybe listen to some of these comments. Thank you.
Tonya, didn't you make the comment earlier that you would hoped that the times of operation, noise from tools, machinery, heavy equipment, construction, repair, alteration, to be changed from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. to 10 a.m.?
Yes.
Are you thinking, you said that 7 a.m. was too early?
It is too early. And I mean, during the week, maybe less of a problem, but certainly during the weekend or during holidays, to have things start at 7 a.m. seems excessive to me. And certain people do work out of their homes, as I do. So, when there's
I believe the current noise law is dawn to dusk.
Well, there are provisions in here with specific time frames. If I have the current version in front of me, 7 a.m. to 9 p.m.
The last one you were given is the most current.
So many versions of it, I don't know. Okay, red line, maybe?
It would
8
seem-
a.m. and sunset.
Yeah.
She was saying 10 a.m. is what she'd prefer, but
Yeah, 10 a.m. would be better, especially on holidays or weekends. And so I would just like to make that request as well. Thank you.
Certainly.
Good evening. I'm Alan Rapplier, and I represent Mr. Brenner, who is a property owner in Amenia, as you all know. I have some questions, and then I'll address some points that I asked the board to consider. If you look at the last section of 80-7, it's section 8417, which really, if we get down to brass tacks, is talking about Mr. Brenner. There are 3 sentences in that section, and I'd ask the board if they could perhaps give me a little guidance on what those things mean. I understand the first sentence, and it talks about between sunset and 8 a.m. The second sentence then says, unreasonable noise resulting from these activities are expressly prohibited from occurring on weekends and holidays. Does that mean that they're allowed on weekdays? Is one question. If folks want to think about it, that's fine.
No, my understanding was it was allowed during the weekdays, during the day.
Okay. If that's the intent, then I would request that may be very clear. It could actually just be one sentence, that between 8 a.m. and the following day on weekends and holidays, then you wouldn't need the rest of that language. If you would consider that, please, that would make that piece clear if that's everyone's intent.
Could you repeat that?
Sure, ma'am. The first sentence and the second sentence, it was unclear to me when you hit the second sentence, unreasonable noise resulting from these activities are expressly prohibited from occurring on weekends and holidays. When I first read that, it said to me, well, that means I can do it during the week, because they're expressly prohibited only on those days. And I'm simply seeking clarification. And it doesn't have to come this evening, but I do think it should come as exactly what is trying to be prohibited there. It would make it clear for any landowner. Can I only do this, or may I do this rather, during the week? And am I only precluded from weekends and holidays? It would suggest the fact that weekends and holidays is there, that that's what you mean, but I'm not being coy. When I read it, I wasn't sure myself. Mm-hmm. The last sentence, I think, requires some greater input. Unreasonable noise resulting from the use of explosive shooting targets shall also be prohibited. That, to me, means all the time, every day. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So, now, what do you mean by explosive?
I think it's defined.
I have never witnessed these explosive targets, but my understanding is that when you shoot them, they explode and make a noise when they're hit.
So a clay pigeon?
I don't think so. I don't think I think it's something else, but I'm not familiar with them myself.
Okay. Is it defined then anywhere?
I don't see the definition, but it should be added, I
Okay.
would think.
Well,
If it's not clear to the average person what an exploding target is.
I think if the intent is to make it clear about exactly what you're trying to stop, then it should be crystal clear what explosive targets means.
So
So
to further
I
define
thought
it,
explosive meant if I shot it and it came apart, it was exploding.
No, I think it makes a loud noise when it's hit.
Okay. Got it. And that means that particular, as I understand you're going to further define it, that's precluded all the time.
That's my
That's my
understanding.
understanding.
Okay, very well, thank you. Now, more generally, when you say gun clubs, do you include in that definition a licensed shooting preserve? I looked for definitions, and I didn't see it there.
I think it would include a licensed preserve as well.
Okay. And I would suggest if you make that amendment, it would be helpful, because a gun club, I know what the Amenia Rod and Gun Club is, and I know some other gun clubs, but I also know there's licensed shooting preserves that are not gun clubs. In theory, you may be a member of it, but you're not given a certificate or anything like that. Now, the last speaker, I think, made a very valid point, and regardless of what side you come at it, is, depending on the code enforcement officer at the time, something could be unreasonable to one code enforcement officer and not be reasonable to the next. One person could say, well, that's unreasonable. The next could say, nah, that's fine. I
What you're
personally
saying is that reasonable people can differ as to what's reasonable and unreasonable.
Well, and I think that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And I think because it's exactly right, this is a very vague law, and one that, not just from an enforcement standpoint, but picture yourself as you're the person going out to lawfully discharge a firearm. But you're not hunting, and you're not a member of a gun club. So when I go out and I say, well, I have a 5-shot magazine, and maybe I'm not on 160 acres, maybe I'm on 13. I'm more than 500 feet away from any structure. Everything I'm doing is lawful. And I fire 5 shots. Bang, bang, bang. I want to sight in the gun. One day, depending on who the code enforcement officer is, I may have violated the law. And then 3 years later, I may do the same thing. And the code enforcement officer at the time may come out and say, I'm sorry, your noise was unreasonable. Neither of them are necessarily wrong. But it proves the point. And I think this, again, the prior speaker, it doesn't matter what angle you're coming at it from, is that, what does it mean? What is unreasonable? What does it mean? And I think, and I know the board's trying to come up with a solution, but I think you may be trying to solve the unsolvable, particularly when you define it as unreasonable.
When isn't impulsive a sound characterized by a single pressure peak or single burst having a duration of less than 1 second? To me, that is a gunshot. No? Sound
Just tell me what-
characterized by either a single pressure peak or a single burst, multiple pressure peaks, having a duration of less than 1 second.
Could you just direct me to what you're reading? What section?
Oh,
you're
I'm
reading?
sorry,
That's it.
definitions.
Yeah.
And if that is, in fact, what I understand to be the definition of a gunshot, then you can do it during daytime hours
Once.
in the week. No, impulsive and explosive sounds, no
You
person
just, I'm
shall...
sorry, ma'am, you just have to.
Sorry, your question is, where's the
impulsive
definition?
sound. I got it.
Yeah, it's on, like, this back side of the first page. Page 2.
I got you. I'm just looking back at section 17, operated any impulsive sound level. Now I'm looking at your definition. Are we saying the same thing?
If you agree that an impulsive sound, as defined here, would meet the definition of a gun being fired, which is what you just described the scenario, that you, so then you would flip over to number 17 of 80-4.
That's what I'm looking at, yeah.
And then you would see that that is allowed, from my understanding, I'm not a lawyer, but this is my understanding of the proposal, is that it would be allowed during the day, during, let's just say, daytime hours, 8 a.m. currently is what it says, to the following, between sunset and 8 a.m. the following day. Sorry, it would be prohibited during that time. During the day, you can fire a shot. From my reading of this, I'm not the last definition. I don't know how you guys all interpret it, but that's how I interpreted the current version.
Let me try to follow that. So impulsive sound, I would tend to agree that a gunshot, a single gunshot, would would last less than 1 second.
Right.
5 in a row would not.
No, but that's one impulsive sound. It didn't say how many sound levels. Impulsive and explosive, no person shall cause, operate, or permit to be operated any impulsive sound levels for commercial, recreational, personal purposes resulting in unreasonable noise between sunset and 8 a.m. They didn't say a one-shot. They said, they didn't limit it to one
So,
instance.
wait, this is between sunset and 8 a.m.?
During the weekdays.
During the week? But this is nighttime.
You
Sunset,
can't do it during those times. It's not telling you when you can. I'm just saying that if that's when you can't do it, then obviously when you could do it would be
During the
during
day.
daytime. Right.
Okay. During the weekdays.
Weekdays, correct, not
Okay.
during the weekends.
yeah,
And that's
okay.
what you're saying this law allows.
That's my understanding of it. If anybody else understands it differently, then they should speak up. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this
That's what they're
and
saying.
No.
interpret it.
No, I understand. I'm just trying-
Go ahead, Mr. Appier.
No, you were beginning
Oh,
to say
I
something.
was just trying to understand, no person, oh my gosh, I, honestly, I don't shoot a gun, I don't even know what a gun is. I couldn't even, well, I could probably point one out because I like Westerns. But no person, no, I don't know any of this stuff, it's nutty. No person shall cause, operate, or permit to be operated by any impulsive sound levels for commercial, recreational, or personal purposes resulting in unreasonable noises between sunset and 8 a.m. the following day. Okay, so that's in the evening. So that means, I'm going to take a gun out of it. That means no, someone can stand there and bang a hammer on an anvil and make...
No, that's
No.
under a different section.
That's
We're
a different
talking
section. We're
specifically about impulsive and explosive sound levels. The construction is somewhere else, and that has a different set of criteria.
Well, okay, so then we are talking about a gun.
Yeah, well, from my understanding.
Shoot, okay.
That's what we're talking about.
We're talking about gun, okay, good. Now...
I think that's all that 17's talking about is firearms.
But why would you, like I say, I don't know anything about these things, but why would you be shooting a gun at sunset at 8 p.m.? The only reason I would think that a person who has a gun like that in their home, has a weapon, it's for their own personal protection or protection of their property. For example, if you are a farmer, and I'm just going to use the term wolf because it's a big animal, and you saw a wolf going after your sheep, and you took your gun out at
The
sunset
ag is exempted from these.
and
It's
shot
different.
the wolf, then that's, you can do that at night because you're in an agricultural setting.
Ag and Markets gives...
First of all, you'd be in real
Trumps
trouble if you shot a wolf.
Oh, well,
Yes.
I only use.
They're protected.
But
I
your
know, I
point
know.
is well taken.
But I only meant because it's a large animal. Honestly, I wouldn't
Well-
shoot a wolf at all.
The reality is you can duck hunt before sunset legally,
Oh,
okay?
yeah,
You can.
you can.
I think it's a half hour. I think it's half hour before, half hour after, rather. And it's lighter than 8 a.m. It's lighter at 6:30 in the summer. It's like,
It
so
is.
you are,
Because I'm making a conversation here. This is what I'm making, folks. I walk my dogs. I have 2 little dogs. Neither one of them has enough sense to get out of the rain. But I walk them in these fields and stuff, and I have come across hunters, people who hunt, men and women, and they're very nice people, and they have the weapons, and I'm out there early, in the summertime, I'm out there very early with the dogs, because they get up, I get up, the sun is up, and we go out. And I've seen these people going out very early with their guns and stuff, met them with their hunting dogs and all of that, it's very lovely. And so they're early in the morning, and then if I've come back like later towards the day, I've seen some people coming back later towards the day because they finished their hunting time or whatever it was that they did, and their time is up. For them, not for the season or the day, but for them, they went out early and they did it. So I'm just trying to understand that people in this community go out hunting and fishing and do all kinds of things because really, I moved to this community and I meet people in these areas that are doing these things that I don't do. But it's very interesting to me to see them and talk to these people. And everyone I've ever come across, being perfectly honest, has been a perfectly reasonable, respectable person. They carried their weapons properly. They didn't do that. They let me know that they were going out there someplace, so I would not let my dogs go out too far because they're small and they could be mistaken for small game. I understand that, so I don't do that sort of thing. But I'm really like totally confused about this gun.
You're not alone. You're not alone in your
because
confusion.
I'm thinking that
Hunting, it seems that hunting, you can lawfully hunt.
Yeah.
And that will be an exception to this paragraph 17. Except that, I assume if you're duck hunting and you're hunting before 8 a.m., because there's an exception for hunting, you're probably okay.
Okay.
That, I say probably because this language is not very,
Okay.
it could be done differently.
So in other words,
But keep in mind, what's being said is, so if I'm shooting at a duck, if that happens to be what I like to do, I can do that all I want, and that's lawful. If I'm shooting at a sporting clay, I can't. That's not lawful under this law.
but people like to do that. They
You
like-
can't under this law.
I think
this-
under Section 8417, which you've been speaking about,
Yeah.
I think
That's-
somewhere in, when you were up there, you did have a recommendation for language, and I just wanted you to repeat it.
Well, my main concern is that the activity that, when our client purchased his property in this town, was a lawful activity, is arguably being made unlawful by this law. And I say arguably because I don't know what folks mean by explosive. I know we all probably are fairly intelligent and can look it up and come up with a conclusion about what it may mean. But fundamentally, the law is very flawed by a number of vague provisions and also by a disparate treatment for folks. So if I happen to be making a noise that would be considered to be impulsive under this law, and assuming I can do it during the week, which I'm not clear on at all, so someone could be hunting, and they could be shooting 500 times, and that's a lawful activity. And if I'm shooting at sporting clays and I shoot at 50, and I'm not a preserve, a gun club, a preserve or a gun club, what I'm doing is illegal. And I think that's how you're treating your property owners in this town differently. And I don't know that that's your intent. I know what you're targeting in the law. I understand that. And I know you have a job to do. But I don't think the effusion of town resources for the complaints of, I'm not sure how many residents are in this town, but
4,500.
4,500. How many people have been complaining about the noise? 2? Okay.
Not at all. No. There have been many complaints
Okay.
over the years for a long period of time, which is why we're considering making changes to the law so that the enforcement officer has a better ability to navigate this provision.
Okay, well, all I'd suggest to you is this could be done a lot better, and number one, and number two, that you think very carefully and long about the use of town resources on a law that folks could differ about how many people are really supporting it and how many are not. Mr. Brenner's a taxpayer too. Now, and by the way, I was on a town board for 11 years, so I do understand how your budgets work and how money is probably scarce when it comes to zoning laws, and folks spend a lot of time on them, a lot of energy, and a lot of it's in entirely good faith. But then you turn it over to your code enforcement officer, and it's not always that easy. When you speak to your counsel about it, the question I would ask, be posed to that person is is treating this property owner with this activity versus the other property owners with the activities we permit, is that a constitutional exercise of our authority? Can we do that? And lastly, I'd suggest to you that the variance process that's in this law, no one will successfully ever apply and be granted a variance. It's expensive, and it relies on the same standard of unreasonable. Okay, so if I have 200 acres and no neighbors at all, I'll get a variance because no one will claim that that noise is unreasonable. If I don't have as much land, perhaps, I'm not subject to the same standard. If you don't have decibel levels or something very clear that someone will know I'm either breaking the law or I'm complying with the law, then with all due respect, you're inviting headaches that you do not need. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
My name is Kevin Brenner. I guess I'm unclear about a lot of things, but one thing particular, according to this proposed law, should it pass, am I allowed to lawfully discharge a firearm am I allowed to shoot sporting clays on the weekend if this law passes?
I don't believe so. That's my understanding.
So I can't use my property for firearms on the weekend?
Well, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you.
That's not the way I read it, by the way.
What, but see this, so
No, I'll be perfectly,
Yes.
your property is your property.
Right.
And as long as you're using it legally, whether it's Monday through Sunday, weekends or holidays, I see no reason why you should not use your property if you want to shoot clay pigeons or what have you. I don't like excluding people from weekends and holidays or Sundays or anything like that because, in all honesty, in my interpretation, people are off on weekends, and that's when they want to use their recreational properties or their home properties for various activities, whether it's swimming in their pool or lake or tennis in their tennis courts or shooting clay pigeons. On holidays are holidays. We have federal holidays and state holidays and all these kinds of holidays, religious holidays and things like that. When you say holidays, St. Patty's Day may be a really important holiday for me. And I would say to you, oh, you can't, please don't shoot because I got a big party here having St. Patty's Day dancers and everything like that. No, it's a holiday, it's an interpretation. And I don't think people should do that. I'm really very serious about this. I'm sorry. I mean, I've been sitting here for a year listening to this, and I just want to be straightforward in my honest opinions about these things.
Jim, did you want to say something?
You cannot regulate people's holidays and homes and uses of stuff like that.
I appreciate that, and I couldn't agree with you more. I just think that if the board itself seems to have different interpretations of the law, how could us regular citizens even try to figure this out? And last time I was here in December, Councilwoman Doyle specifically said, and we have the video to show it, that I can use it on the weekend. And now you're telling me I can't. What's the answer? And you can go back to the tape, because I remember that exactly. I asked the same question then, and your answer was, yes, as long as you're doing it legally. So what's the right answer?
I think the point I might have been making, I don't have the whole context, but if it's not unreasonable, it's fine. If nobody complains about your shooting, then it's not unreasonable. That's my interpretation. And again, you know,
So we have,
don't have
we have
a
6
lawyer
people at the table now with probably 6 different interpretations of the law. What am I supposed to do as a landowner? I just heard, and maybe I'm misunderstanding, and I mean that sincerely, but I just heard 2 different things just from you. I said, can I lawfully discharge a firearm on the weekend? And you said no. And now you're saying yes.
But it's all under whether or not it fits under unreasonable noise or not.
So
That's
then
my understanding.
Then what's the difference if that's the case, then why are you making a decision to make a choice? I understand the concept of sunset to 8 a.m. I understand. That's easy. But then why are you making a distinction between weekends and weekdays if I can do both legally 7 days a week? I don't know why there's that distinction.
If it's unreasonable.
So I can make unreasonable noise during the week.
You can make reasonable noise whenever you want. If it's not bothering anybody, you can do whatever you want, is my reading of this. You only fall under this when somebody complains and says, he starts at 8 a.m., he goes all day long, and they complain to the code enforcement officer. That triggers, some potential unreasonableness. Now, the code enforcement officer says, okay, I'll look at that. He goes and, tries to hear this unreasonable activity, which is tricky in and of itself, because knowing when it's going to happen and if he's on duty and he's not on duty, there's a whole series of difficulties in trying to, for him to understand what's going on there. So there's an interpretation for sure. And then there's a oral, if he finds that in fact this guy is starting at 6 a.m. and he doesn't stop until midnight and they can't talk to their family in the house because the noise is ridiculous, then you probably have a problem. That's unreasonable. Yeah. Is my interpretation.
I think that's the simplest part of what you're saying. Let's assume for the purpose of this conversation that I'm not shooting between sunset and 8 a.m. Let's just call it dark for the purpose of this conversation. I'm not shooting during the dark. I'm not shooting from sunset tonight till 8 a.m. the next morning.
But if you're shooting solidly for 12 hours during daytime hours, then they might call that unreasonable.
Whether it's a weekend or a weekday.
I think it's expressly allowed now, not currently. Not in our current law as it is. This isn't a proposed amendment. This is not law now.
I understand.
So currently, my understanding is if it's unreasonable, there are no timelines at all.
I'm not talking about now, because I know when I bought the property, I researched all this, and that I am not breaking any laws. In fact, I could shoot at night, which I don't, but I could if I wanted to the current law. I'm addressing specifically the proposed law, and I'm hearing multiple different things. I'm hearing I can make unreasonable noise during the week, and I can't do it on the weekend, but I could shoot 7 days a week as long as it's not deemed unreasonable.
I think that is what I understand.
So I can go there with, I could just blast away all week long, and I wouldn't be breaking the law.
From the way I read it.
Okay, does that make sense?
Not to me.
No.
But
Not a chance.
Makes no sense at all.
If I can add one thing for sure.
This is Al.
It actually might be useful if these are two intelligent folks. If you go back, you have the time, and watch the last 10 minutes between two intelligent people having a colloquy about it. If that doesn't convince you that this law shouldn't be passed, I'd suggest nothing could. Two very bright people talking about what a law may mean, not being able to come up with the same consensus, and not even really being able to see it the same way. Doesn't mean debate or disagreement is wrong. It's just that it's a really hard law to interpret and enforce, because, and Councilwoman Doyle kept stressing, if it's unreasonable, if it's unreasonable. I understand why, but what does that mean?
Yeah.
Watch 10 minutes. Just watch those 10 minutes. It started at about 7:40.
so what's the question? What do you prefer, the current law as it stands? Because the reason why we're proposing this and spending a lot of time and money on this and getting a lot of expert opinions and researching of this whole issue is because our code enforcement officer said it was currently unenforceable the way it's written. So if a person, we should just strike from the whole our zoning laws that a person does not have the right to peacefully enjoy his property. That should be stricken from the page, because
That's inappropriate.
it's in there. So how are you going to say that a person does have the right to peacefully
A
enjoy
person
his
does,
property?
a person does have a right to enjoy their property.
Peacefully.
Peacefully. And also the other person that the complaint is against has the right to enjoy their property peacefully, as long as it's within the guidelines of the law. If a person is doing things that are appropriate, I'm going to stick with the gun thing.
We're trying to achieve a proper balance, and it's very, very hard to do. I agree with you. I'm a lawyer as well as you are.
It's
And it's very
maybe
difficult to
impossible.
do. It may be, I don't know.
Maybe impossible.
Bec-
I think
To respond to...
Michelle should be allowed to finish her thought.
What? But the only thing that I'm trying to say is that I'm a property owner. Well, not, well, I own my little piece of property that I live on, and that I don't make any unusual noises because I don't have guns and I don't chop wood. I don't do any of those things like that. But that doesn't mean that someone might come. In fact, one time a neighbor did come to my house and started yelling at me that I was playing a radio too loud, and only to find out it wasn't even me, it was somebody on a different block, but because they thought it was me, they were yelling at me. Now, that's the way things can go. Someone can think that you're doing something improperly, but it's somebody else. But if you're on your own piece of property and it's illegal, you purchase it, it's legal, you're following all the guidelines that there are for your property and the laws in the town, you should be able to do what you're doing. The thing about unreasonable or reasonable, it has to do with what your neighbor thinks or another neighbor thinks about something. And I'm going to tell you this, because I'm straight out, folks. I'm straight out. I've been listening to this for a year. I had somebody tell me, you're going to enjoy this very much, tell me that they could see from their front yard you on the mountain shooting your gun. Okay? The person lives, fantastic, since they live in Dover. Okay? So I'm telling you, this has gotten to be really, for me, making me crazy in the head, listening to this. I think that each person has a right to enjoy their property. Each person has to be reasonable. And the thing called being a good neighbor is helpful. It really is. If someone finds you, sir, that you've done something and it's your neighbor, they should just walk up to you and say, gee, you know, Kevin, blah, blah, and then you can straighten it out. There's certain things that's good neighborhood, good neighbors. You can't zone and you can't make laws about people's behaviors and stuff. As long as the gentleman or woman has their property is purchased, it's legal property, it fits in whatever zoning law we have for that property, and the zoning law says you can do A to Z on it, you should be able to do A to Z, unless, for example, it really becomes an abusive thing, you know. I mean, I don't know what it would be if you shot rocket ships into the air. I don't know what it would be, unreasonable or somebody
Well,
doing.
if it becomes a nuisance.
A nuisance, it's basically, if it becomes a nuisance. And then if a person feels that that's a nuisance for anybody, I'm talking about anybody in the town, I'm not going to talk about one or two people in the town, feels that anybody is doing something that's a nuisance for them or causing you a problem, we have a system with the code enforcement person. You come down here or you get on the web thing, I'm not very computer savvy, and you fill out your complaint that you have, and it gets addressed. The person who gets the complaint, the code enforcement officer, will look at your complaint, talk to you about your complaint, and find out if it's reasonable, and then take action on it and see what can be resolved by it.
So what the code enforcement officer said is that he needs more guidelines from the town board to be able to determine what is reasonable on his or anybody's property that is causing somebody else not to reasonably enjoy their property peacefully. So, hence, some timeframes and specifics that address this so that he has some guidelines to go by.
In a way that is far too vague and amorphous and difficult to pass constitutional muster. So, for example, when I was growing up, there was a house that was purple in our neighborhood. No one liked it. In fact, it was greatly offensive to your view. Just as offensive as perhaps someone might say loud noises are. But there was no law that said the house couldn't be purple. But that's where we're going here.
Exactly. Yeah. Oh.
I just want to address something that Michelle said. Can I call you Michelle? Because I
Yeah.
can't read your last name from here.
That's
I
fine. You can call me
apologize.
Michelle, it's fine.
When Mike first contacted me about some neighbors having some issues with me shooting, particularly on the weekends, I said to him, Mike, I'm trying to be a good neighbor here. If a neighbor calls you and says, hey, I'm having a party this weekend, I'm having a wedding, I'm having whatever, and you know what, I would prefer if Kevin didn't shoot that weekend. I said to him, here's my cell number, call me. I won't shoot that weekend.
Right.
So I tried all that.
Right.
And then the nastiness came. And I just think that this law is not only unenforceable, and I feel like I'm repeating myself, it's not only unenforceable, but I don't understand it. I really don't. And I'm not the smartest guy in the room, but I'm not the dumbest guy in the room either. And I don't understand it. I mean, and anyway, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Did you want to say something?
Is there any other public comment?
One, I just want to address, there was a lot of confusion over the explosive targets. The clay pigeons, they're not, even though they break into a million pieces,
They're not
that's not considered explosive.
No.
I think what you're considering as explosive targets are like the tannerite. It's
That
actually,
was correct.
it's actually an explosive compound that when it's impacted by a bullet,
Right.
it blows up like dynamite.
Right.
Right.
It's extremely loud, there's a big ball of flame, yeah, it's real neat, but that's,
And I think that
What's-
should be expressly in the language, and I thought that we had asked for the tamarite to be specified so that everybody's clear. That's not allowed.
I would agree with, I would agree with that. Like I said, I don't know anything about this. The only reason I agree with that is because I understand that that product, though I know other products can be mixed together, can be made to make like a bomb type thing. And I think that as a town, we can say, no, please don't do that here. I also understand that the state is also looking into, because it can be made into a bomb, to do some kind of a law or something. But we all know how that goes with the state, okay? So I don't mind, I agree the tanninite shouldn't be in it, but clay pigeon, now, I don't shoot a gun. I have seen people shoot guns. I have seen people shoot clay pigeons. I have experienced that in my life, and what they call, and they somehow the gadget shoots them in the air, and then the guy shoots at it with a gun, and they blow up or they break up or whatever it is. I've seen that. I said, oh, that's very nice. That's what I said, very nice. Don't give me a gun, I'm not going to do it. But that's what I said. And I didn't, and I was standing there while they were doing it. I wasn't like right next, whatever. The noise wasn't that excessively loud. I wasn't like, oh my God. No, I wasn't like that. So the only thing is I don't like the tanninite, the only reason is because of the bomb thing. That's the only reason about that. But as for anybody else using their property properly, and really, honestly, people who are involved in these gun clubs and these hunting and fishing activities, they're some of the most responsible people I've ever met, as far as the care of how they handle their weapons, their guns, their bows, their arrows, whatever. And they're great for ecology, the biggest ecologists, the worry about the forest and the trees and
The environment.
the environment. They know all about it better than anybody could imagine, because they know when they should do something, when they shouldn't do something, and how they should do something. And I'm going to say this other thing too, is that your Boy Scouts, they've been going through this Boy Scout program, and I know that they have learned to shoot guns and bows and arrows, and I know that they...
Properly.
Huh?
Properly.
Properly, exactly, properly. learning how to do these things so they can be responsible young adults when they grow up, to learn how to do these things and learn how to, fish in the streams and when they should do all of these kinds of things. And I think I found those people to be the most responsible people for doing these things. I know there are irresponsible people in the world, we all know that. But the people that are involved in this sort of activity are very responsible and very respectable and very considerate and thoughtful. Even when they hunt for animals and stuff like that, they're very respectful of the kind of animals they're hunting for. Because I know I met a couple of hunters who were a little upset about somebody who shot a particular creature that they had no business shooting, and then they just told me they were very upset with that person, that it was inappropriate. That's all I'm saying. And I know it's a lot of conversation. I'm sorry, folks, it's a lot of conversation. But I've been sitting here for a year listening to this. So I don't understand this thing myself. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I think we can do a better job because, in all honesty, the people of Amenia voted us on this board, all the people. I know all the people voted for me to represent them, regardless of their age, their ethnic background, their religious affiliations, or their political whatever. So I care about everybody in the town of Amenia and what's best for everyone in the town of Amenia. And that's I'm not going to say any more about that.
So, but what's your suggestion? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I have to agree. It's a very subjective law, open to interpretation,
Yes.
which can get people into trouble.
Right.
But it could be workable with reason.
I have a suggestion.
Please, only one person at a time, please.
I don't know what this man is doing. I work in the area, and I don't notice the noise at all. But I know from a neighbor that I have, he's got a half an acre, and he and his kids think that half acre is a motocross track. And I got very upset after many weekends of listening to these damn two-stroke four-wheelers running for 4 and 5 hours, right in literally my backyard.
Right.
So I understand his point. He wants to use his property. He wants to shoot clay pigeons or whatever up there. I don't care if he wants to shoot a cannon up there. Okay? He should be able to do it. But with reason. Don't do it 4, 5, 6 hours at a time. Shoot for an hour, hour and a half, take a break. Come back. Just so that the people, because if I remember right, you're up on top of the mountain there?
Yes.
From there, it just echoes right through
Yes, exactly.
the whole valley. And I can understand people on the other side of the valley being upset. But as long as it's not continuous, that would be unreasonable. But
So hours of operation are the way to go?
no, I think just
Common sense is the way to
common
go.
sense on the landowner, understanding that people don't want to listen to it for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours at a time. Give them a break in between. Even I live down on 22 by the Troopers Barracks in Dover. I can hear 10 Mile River do their shoots over there, but it's a half a dozen shots here, or even when they're doing the clays. It lasts for about an hour or so, and then you don't hear it anymore. You know, when I was a kid, I used to hear the Dover drag strip all the way up in Dover. But it was only for a few hours, you know. I think what people get upset with is when it's continuous. Even if it's just one day, continuous, you know. Break it up a little bit. And I feel for you. I believe a person should
Excuse
be able
me,
to do
one
what-
person don't speak to someone in the audience.
I believe people should do whatever.
Too confusing.
They should have the use of their property. you know. But with that right to use that property comes a little bit of responsibility for the people around you. And that's basically all I have to say.
Okay, thank you.
I don't know what the answer is, but I'm sure something can be worked out.
Well, it's a work in progress, obviously. Mr. Brennan, did you have something else you'd like to
Yes, I just wanted
say?
to offer a suggestion that maybe we can put this to bed.
Okay.
The target, the explosive target that you were referring to is tannerite. If the board said to me tonight, or next week, or next month, and you said, Kevin, you know what? Tannerite, people think that, like, you know, that you blew up the side of the mountain and you're going mining. You know what? I don't need to shoot tannerite ever again. It's fun. My kids like it. You put it in a pumpkin and it goes boom. It's fun. But I can get over that.
We're not talking just about you, though. We're
But
talking
let's,
about.
well, let's
we're
put that,
talking
so
about
Let
let's
him
pretend,
finish.
tannerite.
let's pretend for a minute you're not just talking about me. If you said in the town code, nobody is allowed to use tannerite, from my perspective, no problem. And then if you said 7 days a week, you can't shoot from sunset to sundown, however, it was sunset to sunup, no problem. And you know what, Kevin? Let's even say that, because I appreciate what you said. I had a bunch of friends over last April, and we went at it for 4 or 5 hours on a Saturday. You know what? That was probably too much. And I could, and you know, that's when we get state troopers called. We get visits from the state troopers when tannerite goes off, or if we're shooting, you know, for a long period of time. Why doesn't the board make a suggestion and say, you know what, Kevin, you could shoot your targets, and in all honesty, I shoot sporting clays up there, I shoot pistols, and I shoot rifles, and I shoot them. I'm not a hunter. I'm not against hunting. I'm not a hunter. I shoot them at steel targets. And so you might hear bang, click, hopefully, if I'm hitting the targets, right? So you said, Kevin, you know what? You could shoot for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, half an hour, 15 minutes, and then take a break for X amount of time. That is definable, and it's enforceable. Because you could say, because Mike could stand at the edge of the driveway, or wherever you hear it from, and with a timer. Or the person who's complaining and says, hey, Kevin started at 1 o'clock, he's allowed to shoot for 2 hours straight, and then he has to take a half an hour break, but he went from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, so he wasn't playing by the rules. That's a simple law. And a simple law is one that's easy to enforce, and it's also, candidly, for my selfish interest, easy to abide by. Like I mentioned the last time, I'm a law enforcement officer part-time. I don't want to break any laws, even if I wasn't a law enforcement officer. That's not who I am. And most of the guys, 99% of the guys who I know who are firearms enthusiasts, who like military history, who believe in serving the public, these are the type of guys, and they'll get that. So if the buddies who came up with me said, hey, we can't shoot for 4 hours straight, what's up with that? You know what? I cut a deal with the town, we got to deal with it. I think that that's fine. Keep it simple. You know that KISS, right? Mm-hmm. Keep it simple, and then everybody's happy, I think. So that's my suggestion, and again, I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Make a motion to close the public hearing for the noise law.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Okay, is there any other public comment not related to the noise law? No? Okay. Oops. I think the supervisor's report. I don't know where mine is.
We need. Does she need hers?
No, I don't know where mine is. Thanks. Disappeared. Okay, supervisor's report, now that I found it. Wassaic Trail of the Train update. Wassaic Trail of the Train project Project resolution prepared for accepting construction low bidder, completing other DOT and Dutchess County requirements before construction can begin in March 2019. Town of Amenia Highway, excuse me, could you take that outside? Thank you very much. Town of Amenia Highway Garage Land Update. Title Insurance Company expenses to be approved, closing documents to be completed and recorded. Amenia Town Hall upgrades, painting and finishing materials for window replacement project in process, in addition to ADA bathroom and ramp upgrades. CDBG grant reimbursement request for $12,630 from the Town of Amenia sent to Dutchess County for allowed ADA project engineering cost payment. Water laws final resolution to adapt water laws ready for town board vote. Noise law update, public hearing continued to January 17, 2019. Dutchess County shared services with Town of Amenia. Dutchess County procurement specialists assisting Amenia Town board members with planner evaluations. Top candidates will be interviewed when all data is received. Amenia Town Hall generator resolution prepared for town board vote to award contract to electrical contractor low bidder. Installation work is planned for March 2019. Building report. December's monthly report has building permits for 7 new building permits totaling $20,361.25. Certificate of occupancy searches, 10 searches with total of $1,250. 1 fire inspection of $50, 1 renewal of $175, and 1 fireworks permit of $75, bringing the total for the month to be $21,911.25. Town clerk report.
Good evening. The minutes of December and January 3rd were circulated to the board earlier this evening to be discussed at our next meeting. I present to the town board the vouchers, also circulated at your table, and those that have come in to sign them, that the vouchers were certified by in the abstracts, there's multiple abstracts, were certified by the town clerk's office this week, and I'm presenting consisting of 8 pages in the following amounts. General Fund A, $155,848.29. Highway Fund, $62,943.87. Amenia Water, $7,269.92. For the capital improvements for the generator, $3,400. For a total of, inclusive of the ending of December 2018, $229,462.08.
I'll move the payment of the vouchers as submitted.
Second?
Councilwoman Samoji?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
I'd also like to remind those that were newly appointed this past January 3rd as part of the reorg, that those that have to file their oath of office, please see me before January 30th. As a reminder to the public, taxes were mailed out on December 28th, and we are currently in the penalty-free period. Penalty-free extends all the way until February 28th. Next month is Heart Month, and we'll be hosting our annual blood drive. This year it'll be February 21st. It's our second town board meeting of the month from 3 p.m. until 7:30. As a reminder, Monday is Martin Luther King Day, and the offices will be closed. And even though it's cold, it's chilly, we're talking snow. Just wanted to let everybody and remind everybody know that at Maple Brook, they do have the open swim. So the hours are on Sundays beginning in January, so January 13th, January 20th, January 27th, February 3rd, February 10th, February 17th, and February 24th. From 4:30 to 5:30 is 12 years and younger with adult supervision, and from 5:30 to 6:30 is general swim. Stay safe this winter weekend. And that concludes.
Did you want to do your minutes?
No.
We're gonna do them at the next meeting.
Okay.
Yep. So everybody has the opportunity to read, and Jim and I have discussed.
Okay, are there any other committee reports?
The CAC met last night, and we opened the meeting at 7 PM, and our 2019 New Year's resolution is to concentrate on getting some things done. We reviewed the Climate Smart Community Grant that was received for $17,208 with our partners at HVA. We reviewed the credits that are available for the town applying for more Community Smart Grant initiatives. So we clearly have already many things that will count towards this
Certification?
goal, certification. And Mike Peak, our CAC chair, will be working with you, Victoria, to go over some of the specifics, such as the steam heating system in Town Hall, the NYSERDA audit that we completed, the new lighting at Town Hall, the fact that the CAC even exists, we get points for, the fact that we have a farmer's market in town is worth points. But we'll also look forward at achievable goals in the near future, certainly within 2019.
I think the habitat study we did too.
Yep, those
counts.
Hudsonia maps also count, and the reports. We want, okay, and we were also wondering what the status is of the solar moratorium, so I know that's later on our agenda. The question was whether or not we might apply for grants for solar on the rail trail extension, solar lighting. But all of that, Mike will check with Victoria. And we need to prepare a report for our CAC roundtable for the county on February 27th at the Farm and Home Center. At least one or two of our members will be presenting there, so that will be what we prepare at our next meeting on the third Wednesdays at 7 PM here in this room. The other announcement that we had at the end is that Mark Doyle wants to have the county natural resource inventory printed and bound for the CAC. I had accidentally said the town. Amenia has its own draft, and I did let him know that we need both the Amenia and the county's natural resource inventory to get it to you. That's all I have.
Okay, are there any other committee reports?
Well, I might as well do this now before everybody turns off and goes to bed.
Your committee report.
My very own. We have our first trip planned for Wednesday, April 25th, seniors, to Hunter Don Hill's Playhouse. Take me away. It's, let me see, it says, this immersive dinner theater experience will transport you to the bustling city of London, where you will help Sherlock Holmes solve a baffling mystery. The date for the trip is April 24th. The deadline is March 22nd. It's $66 a person. It's all scheduled and it's ready to go. So, ladies and gentlemen, sign up, please. Okay, I have reserved 35 seats. Okay, I've got a limit on these seats this year for that. Thank you very much for that. Also, it's a little in advance, but the Golden Age singers will be coming to sing for us in May, and that'll be coming on your schedule soon for that. And the Easter egg hunt, I think it's going to be the 6th of April. I left messages with Erica at the library, so Erica, if you see me, call me, please, to see if we can coordinate to have the library and us do the Easter egg hunt here in the town hall, because it was so very nice when we did the Christmas together that I think doing the Easter egg hunt together would be really very nice. And that's basically all I have about the good news, folks. So,
Do you know when the next recreation meeting is?
have no idea,
Okay.
none whatsoever.
The new chair is Scott Russo.
Scott, okay, then I see Scott occasionally, I'll get Scott, I'll find out.
Okay, resolution for transfer of funds, resolution number.
5,
Transfer of funds for December number 2, 2018. Whereas the town board has the authority to transfer funds when necessary, unanticipated, to amend the budget. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund, increasing expense line 3120101, police and constable personal service by $903.23, and decreasing expense line 31201.075, police and constable personal service special event by $903.23 for additional court-related expenses. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund, increasing expense line 19004.01.057, special item CE grant administration by $264, and decreasing expense line 19004.01.80, special item CE unallocated by $264 to cover additional grant administration cost. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund, increasing expense line 13554.01.044, assessors CE tertiaries by $3,301.89, and decreasing expense line 97106.01.105, debt service on bond capital notes by $3,301.89 for additional tertiary attorney fees. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund, increasing expense line 13551.01, assessors PS by $36.45, and decreasing expense line 13554.01.063 by $36.45 for additional data collector cost. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund, increasing revenue line 255501, building permits by $2,456.83, and decreasing, it says increasing, it's decreasing. Expense line 14404.01, engineers, oh, actually, it is increasing, I'm sorry. Don't change that. Increasing is correct. And increasing expense line 14401, engineers CE by $2,456.83 for ADA engineer fees. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund, increasing expense line 14204.01, attorney CE by $3,218.31, and decreasing expense line 97106.01.005, debt service on bond capital notes by $3,218.31 for unanticipated attorney fees. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund, increasing expense line 51324.01.062, garage CE maintenance by $54.44, and decreasing expense line 51324.01.077, garage CE telephone by $54.44 for additional expenses. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund, increasing line 80204.01.102, planning CE special land use attorney by $594.70, decreasing expense line 80104.010.074, zoning CE supplies by $594.70 for additional attorney cost. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund, increasing expense line 19004.01.060, special item CE landfill planning by $6,599, and decreasing expense line 97106.01, debt service on bond capital notes by $6,599 to cover replacement monitoring well on the old Amenia landfill. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund, increasing line 13304.01.063, tax collector CE mileage by $7.98, and decreasing line 13304.01.078, tax collector training by $7.98 for mileage cost. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund increasing line 13104.01.040, Director of Finance, CE, account support by $391.50, and decreasing line 12204, excuse me, 01.048 supervisor CE conferences by $391.50 for additional costs for budget balance, for fund balance budget review. Whereas budget amendment in the general fund, increasing expense line 16204.01.062, building CE maintenance by $49,468.33, and decreasing expense line 97106.01, debt service on bond capital notes by $49,468.33 to pay ADA and window replacement construction costs. Whereas budget amendment in the water fund, increasing expense line 90308.06, Social Security town share by 13 cents, and decreasing expense line 83104.06, water administration CE by 13 cents for Social Security costs. Whereas budget amendment in the water fund, increasing expense line 83204.06, source power pump CE by $1,459.42, and by increasing expense line 83402.06, transmission distribution EQ by $358.58, and decreasing expense line 83304.06.117, purification CE laboratory by $1,818 for water valve and other repairs in the water district. Whereas budget amendment in the water fund, increasing expense line 83402.06, transmission distribution EQ by $1,720.23, and decreasing expense line 83304.06.116, purification CE chemicals by $735.80, and decreasing 83404.06, transmission distribution CE by $883.34, and decreasing line 83104.06, administration CE by $101.09 for repairs in the water district. I make that motion.
Second.
Discussion? Does anyone have any questions? I just want to explain that why there was money in the debt service on bond capital notes. Earlier in the year, I believe I sent you the letter we received from EFC telling us that we did not use the total amount that we borrowed for the old Amenia landfill. And they asked me if I wanted to apply it to the principal, and I said yes. So they took that as our principal payment for this year, which left us money in that particular line to be able to use for construction cost and, and other items.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Superwoman, Councilwoman Smoji?
Yes.
Okay, resolution for sale of water district property. Mr. Bossie's been sitting there with bated breath waiting for this. Resolution number 6. Authorizing the sale of surplus real property owned by the town of Amenia on behalf of the Amenia Water District Number 1, located at 3320 Route 343, grid number 716-713-214475. Whereas the town of Amenia, on behalf of the Amenia Water District Number 1, acquired a parcel of real property, okay?
I'll make it.
From the Amenia Water Company by deed, dated March 17, 1964, whereas the parcel, which includes a pump house, was decommissioned from the water supply for the Amenia Water District, and any wells on the subject property have been abandoned and placed out of service. Whereas the Amenia Water District has developed alternative water resources and the subject property serves no current or anticipated future district purpose. Whereas by letters Dated June 21st, 2018, SCBI Environmental Services Incorporated, the town's consulting contractor for the operation and maintenance of the Amenia Water District Number 1 facilities, confirmed that the property serves no legitimate district purpose and recommended the sale of the property as surplus property. Whereas pursuant to Article 12 of Town Law, real property owned by but not required for the purposes of the district may be sold by the town board following a public hearing. Whereas the town board has solicited proposals for the purchase of the subject property pursuant to sealed bid as authorized by Resolution Number 49 of 2018. Whereas notice of the sale was duly published and no responses were received. Whereas the town board hereafter authorize the direct solicitation of offers through all owners of the property in the water district by including notice of the availability of the property for purchase with the water bills. Whereas no response to that requests were received, and thereafter the town supervisor directly solicited proposals for the purchase of the property from those individuals that had previously expressed some interest in acquiring the property. Whereas by a letter dated November 16, 2018, accompanied by the requisite 10% deposit, the town clerk received an offer on the subject property from Bruce J. Bossy, Post Office Box 870, Millbrook, New York, 12545, in the amount of $2,500, which is the only offer the town has received. Whereas the town board has determined that the proposed action is unlisted action pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, and pursuant to Part 617 NY CRR, commonly known as seeker, whereas the town board has determined that the proposed action is an action for which there are no other involved agencies, and the town board is therefore by default lead agency for this action, whereas the town board has caused to be prepared a short form environmental assessment form, has reviewed the proposed action pursuant hereto, and hereby determines that the proposed action will not have a significant impact on the environment, and hereby makes a negative declaration of its significance. Whereas pursuant to Article 12 of the town law, the town board, on behalf of the water district, is authorized to sell property following a public hearing. And whereas the public hearing was duly held on January 17, 2019, and all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf of or in opposition to said proposed sale of property. And whereas the town board is desirous of authorizing the execution of a contract and the sale of the subject property in the proposed amount of $2,500, whereas there are no bonds or other debt outstanding for the subject surplus property, now therefore be it resolved that the town board is authorized to convey the parcel by quitclaim deed, subject to any and all conditions, restrictions, zoning, actions of the town of Amenia and/or building inspections, etc., affecting the said parcel or premises, and to such facts that would be disclosed by a survey and inspection. Be it further resolved that the town of Amenia makes no warranty or representation as to the condition, dimensions, location, or physical existence of the property described herein, or to the marketability of the title. The purchaser assumes all risks thereof. Now shall be the responsibility of the purchaser to investigate all aspects, the status of the parcel and/or premises, and be it further resolved that the town board hereby authorizes supervisor to accept the down payment of $250 and enter into a contract of sale with Bruce J. Bossy, Post Office Box 870, Millbrook, New York, 12545, in substantially the same form as annexed hereto for the sale of a vacant parcel of real property located at 3320 Route 343, Town of Amenia, County of Dutchess, New York, bearing tax grid number 761713214475 for the purchase price of $2,500 in connection therewith, together with appropriate adjustments as determined by the actual closing date, contingent upon a satisfactory funding, and all other contingencies considered necessary and appropriate by the attorney to the town, and subject to final review and approval by the attorney to the town. Be it further resolved that the town board hereby authorizes a supervisor to execute and deliver quitclaim deed and other closing documents on behalf of the town for the sale of the subject parcel. Be it further resolved that the proceeds of the sale, including the down payment, shall be deposited and credited to Amenia Water District Number 1. Is there a motion?
I make the motion that we authorize the sale of the surplus real property owned by the town of Amenia on behalf of the Amenia Water District Number 1, located at 3320 Route 343, grid number 7167, 13214475.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes,
And Councilwoman Smargy?
Yes.
Congratulations.
Okay, resolution number 7. Resolution awarding generator contractor bid. Awarding contract for electrical work associated with the installation of an emergency generator at Town Hall. Whereas by resolution number 58, 2018, adopted by the Town Board of the Town of Amenia, on September 20th, 2018, the Town Board authorized the purchase of an emergency generator for Town Hall so that it may have power in the case of emergency. Whereas the installation of emergency generator requires electrical work to be performed by a licensed electrician. Whereas bids were solicited for the necessary electrical work and 6 bids were received. Whereas Fellinger Engineering LLP has reviewed the bids and has determined that the lowest responsible bidder for the emergency generator electrical work is CDE Electric and has recommended award of the contract to CDE Electric. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Amenia does hereby award the emergency generator clerical electrical work contract to CDE Electric at a cost not to exceed $61,400 pursuant to their bid proposal, and be it further resolved that the town supervisor is authorized and directed to execute the contract between the town and CDE Electric, and Fellinger Engineering LLP is authorized and directed to issue a written notice to proceed as soon as practicable thereafter. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
I second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes,
And Councilwoman Smargy?
Yes.
And up to resolution number 8. Resolution to adopt water laws. So we're going to use local law number X, like we usually do.
Well, I can tell you, it's going to end up being one.
Going to be one? This is the first one of the year.
First one of the year.
Adopting local law number 1 of the year 2019 Town of Amenia Municipal Water Law. Whereas a resolution was duly adopted by the Town Board of the Town of Amenia introducing a proposed local law entitled Local Law Number X of the year 2019, so that would be 1. Town of Amenia Municipal Water Law. Whereas the public hearing was duly advertised in Millerton News, the official newspaper of the town. Whereas the public hearing was held on November 1st, 2018, and all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak on behalf of or in opposition to said proposed local law or any part thereof. Whereas the town board determined the proposed action is unlisted action pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, pursuant to Part 617 NYCRR, commonly known as SEEKR, made a negative declaration of significance pursuant to SEEKR and has filed a short form EAF. Whereas the Town Board of the Town of Amenia, after due deliberation, finds it is in the best interest of the town to adopt said local law. Whereas said local law has been on the desks of the members of the Town Board of the Town of Amenia for at least 7 days, exclusive of Sunday prior to the adoption of this resolution. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Amenia hereby adopts local law number 1 of the year 2019, entitled Local Law Number 1 of the year 2019, Town of Amenia Municipal Water Law, a copy of which is attached hereto. Made part of this resolution, be it further resolved that the town clerk is directed to enter said local law in the minutes of this meeting and in the local law book for the Town of Amenia, and to give due notice of the adoption of said local law to the Secretary of the State of New York. And I make that motion.
Second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
yes,
And Councilwoman Smargy?
Yes. And then we just move this one over here, right?
Now, I was told by WSP, who is handling the Trail to the Train, that the DOT is requiring me to have a password for a construction logon system, which is the EBO. I have an explanation of what that is. It's the New York State DOT Equitable Business Opportunities System User Agreement. And in addition to doing the application, I also have to send them a resolution naming me as local responsible official. So that's number 9.
Yes.
Identifying town supervisor as a responsible local official, the RLO, and authorizing submission of a request for equitable business opportunity system login password to the New York State Department of Transportation. Whereas New York State Department of Transportation has implemented a web-based civil rights reporting system called Equitable Business Opportunities to streamline and reduce the efforts required by the construction and engineering industries to satisfy the civil rights reporting requirements. Whereas New York State DOT holds the license for EBO, and the software resides on the New York State DOT servers. And whereas EBO is made available to vendors participating in New York State DOT contracts and federal aid locally sponsored contracts, and is available free of charge. Whereas a portion of the Wassaic Trail to the Train project will be funded by federal funds, whereas the town supervisor is desirous of submitting a request for an EBO system login password to the New York State DOT and being identified as a responsible local official, now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby authorizes the town supervisor to be identified in the RLO for the purpose of submitting a request for EBO system login password to New York State DOT, and be it further resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized and directed to submit a request for EBO system login password to New York State DOT in connection with the Wassaic Trail to the Train project. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Snorji?
Yes.
Okay, the resolution for First Amendment to escrow agreement, we're going to table to the next meeting.
Okay, so that's just
So moving right along.
moving right along. Okay, this goes over here. Okay.
And the resolution for solar moratorium extension.
Oh,
I think I'm at 10.
oh, this goes over
Yes.
here. Okay.
Now, the reason for the extension is because the current moratorium ends this month, and we need time to present the local law and do the public hearing, which Ian is
we
going to
just
give
do it
us.
for 6
Is going to give
months?
us, yeah.
Has it only been in for 6 months?
Yeah.
And we haven't gotten
Oh,
off the
we
ground?
have, Ian actually has a copy, a draft.
It was a draft that was
I
submitted.
saw that on the email, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So we just need to look at the draft.
Okay.
That,
It's a 6-month
that's the zoning
moratorium
review
with 2
committee has
months.
been working on. But we need to extend it for a couple of months to get through the local law process. Extending temporary townwide moratorium prohibiting the installation of freestanding or ground-mounted solar energy systems and wind energy conversion system for one additional 3-month term. Whereas on July 19, 2018, by resolution number 39 of 2018, the town board of the town of Amenia adopted local law 3 of 2018, imposing a temporary townwide moratorium prohibiting the installation of freestanding or ground-mounted solar energy systems and wind energy conversion system in the town of Amenia. Whereas Section 2A of Local Law 3 of 2018 provided for a moratorium term 180 days from its effective date, subject to review and extension by the town board, the town of Amenia. Whereas Local Law 3 of 2018 became effective on July 30 of 2018 upon filing with the Secretary of State, and therefore it shall expire on January 26, 2019, unless it is extended. Whereas the purpose of the temporary townwide moratorium prohibiting the installation of freestanding or ground-mounted solar energy systems and wind energy conversion systems to preserve the status quo in the town of Amenia pending the completion and adoption of the town's new zoning regulations with respect to solar energy systems and wind energy conversion systems. Whereas the new zoning regulations are being drafted and reviewed, it is anticipated that the revisions will be adopted by April 26, 2019. Whereas the town board has determined an extension of the moratorium term is warranted, it is in the best interest of the residents and property owners of the town of Amenia to extend the provisions of Local Law 3 of 2018 for an additional 90-day term by resolution pursuant to Section 11. Therefore, and whereas the town board may terminate the moratorium earlier than 90 days provided, that the new zoning laws adopted and the appropriate revision to the land use regulations have been made. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board hereby extends the temporary townwide moratorium prohibiting the installation of freestanding or ground-mounted solar energy systems and wind energy conversion systems in the town of Amenia established by Local Law 2018 for an additional 90-day term commencing on January 27, 2019 and ending on April 26, 2019, pursuant to Section 11 of the local law. And I make that motion.
Second.
Supervisor Brody?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Samaji?
Yes.
And the next is to approve the capital markets advisor who does the groundwork for our borrowing and has worked with us, who did all the work for us to borrow the money for the heating system, and they've laid all the groundwork for us to borrow for the trail of the train. The estoppel and everything has been done. The only thing that needs to be done is that the note has to be put out for bids. So I'm asking for authorization to sign this contract.
Well, do we just make a motion? Yeah, make a motion that we authorize the supervisor to sign the contract so we can facilitate this project. Excuse me, sorry.
So this is competitive,
Yeah, they have,
competitive fee schedule.
what?
So this fee schedule is competitive. We've used them in the past.
Well, actually, the town's used them for years. They were, it's the same group that was Sal Panini.
And we've just been going on and on with them.
Right, because that's what the town has done. Because Beth Ferguson took over the practice when Mr. Panini retired. So it's the same company the town's been with for years.
Is this the same compensation schedule, or have they increased their prices?
I believe it's the same as last year. They have, when they send out the note for competitive billing, they send it out to between 75 and 80 investment groups and banks.
When they get their funds.
Yeah, they actually send the note out to, I don't know, it was between 75 and 80 banks and investment. Because when we got the bids for the heating system, we had one from M&T Bank, one from Oppenheimer, one from Roosevelt, which is kind of the same plane as Oppenheimer, and then Millbrook Bank
Okay.
and
I'll
Greene
second
County
it.
Bank. I just need to, I don't know, who made the
Michelle made the
original?
motion to
Okay.
authorize you to sign the contract.
Seconded.
And seconding, Councilwoman Simoji?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. Now, this is approval to purchase title insurance for the highway garage property. Robert Stout from Dave Everett's office has been working on this, and this is the company he recommended. So I just need authorization to pay this invoice and allow them to be our title insurance company for the property.
That appears to be a reasonable amount for the title insurance.
And then they'll do all the recording of all the,
Yeah. Yeah, those fees seem to be fairly standard, so
Is that you, Jim, making that, moving
I'll
that?
make the motion.
Second.
Councilwoman Simoji? Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
yes. And I believe we have thing and other matters.
Oh, yeah, where is it?
Don, do you have the,
The resolution?
yeah, I gave it to everybody but me,
That's okay.
so everybody has it, but me. Okay, this is for a change work order for trademark custom building and woodwork agreement regarding the town hall improvements. The original plan was to add activation switches on the outside door. And the inside door, we were either, we're going to take the fire doors off, but then we realized that if we're in the middle of a snowstorm and the door comes open and all the snow and wind is going to end up in the hall. And that it's probably also a safety idea to keep the fire doors in place and just put, just put additional switch so that, when they hit the switch, that door would open as well.
Okay. And that's at a cost of?
$3,900.
And is the grant going to cover that? ADA?
I know they're going to cover the first door. I don't think this was originally part of the grant, and all of the grant funds have been
Expended?
expended.
Okay.
Resolution number 11.
11.
Authorizing change order to trademark custom building and woodworking agreement regarding town hall improvements. Whereas the town hall authorized a proposal for construction services from trademark custom building and woodworking for the town hall improvement project by resolution number 55 of 2018, adopted by the town board on September 6, 2018. Whereas as a result of unexpected circumstances, additional work is required to remove and install a second set of vestibule doors in the main entrance to further secure the town hall building from the elements, provide additional security, and to keep the building handicap accessible. Whereas by letter dated January 15, 2019, Trademark Custom Building Woodworking has submitted a change order for consideration in the amount of $3,900. Now therefore be it resolved that the additional work for the Town Hall Improvement Project is authorized in the amount of $3,900, increasing the total contract amount from $87,750 to $91,650. Be it further resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to execute change order number 1 in the amount of $3,900, subject to final review and approval by the town attorney. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Councilwoman Simoji?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
And Supervisor Perotti?
Yes. And then the other matters we have is awarding the Trail of the Train bid. You have the bid award information with the resolution.
It's under other matters.
Resolution number 12.
Yes.
Awarding bid for the construction of a bicycle trail extending from the hamlet of Wassaic to the Wassaic train station. Whereas by resolution number 43 of 2018, adopted by the Town Board of the Town of Amenia on July 19, 2018, the Town Board authorized the issuance of $1 million serial bonds to pay the cost of capital improvements in connection with the construction of bicycle trail path extending the hamlet of Wassaic to the Wassaic train station. Whereas additional funding for this project has been awarded to the town through various grants. Whereas bids and specifications were prepared by Daniel Breyer, PE of WSP USA, project engineer for the work required for the construction of a bicycle trail path extending from the hamlet of Wassaic to the Wassaic train station. Whereas bids were solicited for the work to be done, and the following bids were received on December 13, 2018. Contractor A. Colarusso and Son Incorporated, bid amount $1,182,649. Nikki Diggs Excavation, $1,999,872.14. Lancaster Development and Tully Construction Company, $1,449,423. Contact Construction Technology Incorporated, $1,577,419. Whereas by letter dated December 18, 2018, from Daniel Breyer, PE of WSP USA, project engineer, has determined that the lowest responsible bidder is A. Colarusso and Son Incorporate, and recommends that A. Colarusso and Son Incorporate should be awarded the contract in the amount of $1,182,649, all as set forth in the aforementioned recommendation letter. Now therefore be it resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Amenia hereby awards the bid for the construction of a bicycle trail path extending from the hamlet of Wassaic, the Wassaic train station, to 8 Colarusso and Son Incorporated, Hudson, New York, and the amount of $1,182,649. And be it further resolved that in accordance with authorized bid specifications, the Town Board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the contract documents as prepared by WSP USA, including the notice of award and notice to proceed, and forward a copy to A. Colarusso and Son Incorporated after the attorney to the town has confirmed that A. Colarusso and Son Incorporated has duly executed the contract documents, has supplied the necessary insurance certificates, performance bond, and payment bond, all as otherwise required by the bid specifications. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Doyle made it, and then
Okay. I guess I second it.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilwoman Doyle?
Yes.
Councilman Morris?
Yes.
And Councilwoman Simoji?
I guess there's no more public comment, 'cause there's no more public. Town Board comments?
Dawn.
Yes.
I'm too late now, I can't remember your name.
Okay.
Is the pancake breakfast on this Sunday, or is it because of the weather you canceled it, or is it next week and I have the wrong weekend?
No, it's this weekend.
Yep, it is scheduled for this weekend, and there's been some text messages going around. And should we have to cancel, You will see notices throughout the community on the bulletin boards, and I will also go ahead and put the cancellation notice on our town website, and I'll send it to Mike so he can go on our television, so turn into Channel 22. That'll be as soon as I find out, you'll find out. And I'll email you guys if you'd like, so that way.
Well, basically, I'll just look out if my driveway's not plowed, I won't be there.
Okay.
I have a Subaru, I go everywhere.
She do the breakfast pickup for everybody.
So we'll
Is there
keep
any-
you posted. Thanks, Michelle.
Is there any other town board comment?
Not for me, except that I think that noise law, we've got a long way to go.
Yeah, it's a work. Yeah, we need to work on that.
I would just mention that, in my opinion, if you're concerned about the noise law affecting your ability to use your property in the way that you would like to, just be cognizant of the fact if it's not unreasonable, then this law won't even apply to you. It is only going to be applying to people whose neighbors find they can no longer peacefully enjoy their properties, as our zoning law has said is their right. So that's the long and short of it. If you're confused or concerned, ask yourself, is anybody lodging a complaint against you? And if not, you can do whatever you want, as long as you're staying within the rest of the laws.
Within reason.
Yeah. So the other is, I wondered if we're getting the Sue Sereno's $49,000 to reimburse our expenses for the
For the windows?
windows. That's
Yes.
underway. Okay.
I have a contract that I already did with Dormitory Authority.
Okay.
I just have to complete it once the work is done.
Okay. And I went to a meeting last Saturday at the Wassaic Firehouse, and the commissioners did a really great presentation at I think it was at 3:30 or 3. And they'll be doing more of these presentations, which are just basically to help homeowners understand what services the Wassaic Fire District is providing to its, I think they covered 27 square miles of territory. It sounds like a huge territory, but Amenia is very spread out, and I assume Amenia Fire District covers a similar patch north of that. They had very interesting suggestions that we all learn from, and one is that I didn't realize that first of all, the fire smoke alarms in your house now have to be interconnected and wired. If you're doing new construction and such, that's what you're going to need to have. If you still have your standalone free smoke alarms, they're no longer, after 10 years, even though you push the test button and it responds correctly, it still may not be working at full capacity. In other words, the sensor may still not be as effective if you had a new one. So that's something I didn't realize. I believe they have free smoke alarms. If you need one, don't hesitate, because the fire companies have that, and it's
And they
your
will
first
install
line.
them.
They'll install them, they'll show you how to use them, they'll set them up for you. And mine is screwed to the
I
ceiling.
announced it last
door.
year. Thank you.
They had very,
Michelle,
very
Michelle.
good information. I didn't realize 80% of their calls are for traffic accidents, and distracted driving is a huge increase. They're having, on average, about 4 extra calls per month just this past year. So the call volumes are going up that they respond to, and they gave some very good slides on the extensive training that they receive. If you're hiking and you have an accident, they have volunteers who have trained specifically to rescue people in difficult situations over, a long period of time. So the resources that we have here in this community are extraordinary. The dedication that the firemen and the emergency rescue people, the training that they undertake, the dedication that they have, the hours that they put in are underappreciated, I think, by the average person. I didn't realize to what extent they have. I know, Dawn Marie, you serve, your family serves. A lot of people in the community don't really realize to what degree they've given up a lot of their time and resources, monetary, that, it does cost money. I don't know if you pay out of your pocket, but one test, according to David Rosenberg, was, I don't know, $70 for a class. Maybe it was $170. Anyway, it's a significant thing, and I think I just wanted everybody to think about that and make sure their smoke alarms are working. And also, if you're in doubt, they stress to please, if you have a chimney fire or maybe a modest fire that you think you can handle, better to call 911 and have a false alarm. They pleaded with us to please not hesitate. Go ahead and make that call, because it's not an instantaneous release of resources. The call is accepted. It gets transferred to another, the fire chief or whoever the chain of command is. It's not an instantaneous thing. So the fact is that you shouldn't wait, because time is not on your side if that turns into a real fire. That's all I have. Thank you.
And that's why I say for folks, the pancake breakfast I talk about, go to them. They're really good, and they support the local fire companies, their auxiliaries and everything.
Yep.
So come out to that. Come out to any event that the firehouses are doing, because they are exceptional people.
Oh, I forgot to mention that I want to officially, for the record, say that Sharon Kroger needs to be added to the roster for the CAC. It was just an oversight, and I'll make sure that gets...
You're making that as a motion?
I'll make that as a motion, that we add Sharon Kroger to the CAC as she was appointed in the recent past.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Time for the Morris motion?
Yes, it
I
is.
move that we adjourn.
I second.
9:05.
Good night, everyone. See you
Good
next
night.
month.
Jim.